Hey guys, it's Inigo here and welcome to my channel. Sorry I haven't made a video for a couple of weeks. I've been busy with some hobbies and just haven't had time to make a video. Today I want to make a video, hopefully is going to be quite simple and short. And this is about how to use vowels in the Finnish language. You might also know it as Vokaaliharmonia. Essentially this is about how to use vowels in the Finnish language, and in Finnish you'll notice that when you're conjugating words, adding stuff to the end of a word, you will have to add some vowels. So usually you'll have to add an A somewhere. So if someone uses a question like a missä type of question, you'll probably need to add an issa at the end of your word, and you need to decide, is the A on the end going to have dots on top or not? So this lesson will kind of help you figure that out. So essentially there are three different groups. I'll start with the strongest group. My pronunciation of the vowels is not very good, so I'll try and just explain it without doing the proper pronunciations. But firstly, we've got the strongest group, which I'll put here on the screen. So you've got, for a non-Finnish speaker, like an English speaker, essentially you've got an A with the dots on top, an O with the dots on top, and what looks like a Y, but it's like a U sound, something like that, an U sound. This is the strongest group, and if you ever see these three vowels in a word, you know that when you conjugate, you're going to use those vowels at the end of the word as well. Okay, so if you need to add an a, if you've got a missä question and you need an issa, it's going to be issa. Okay, it's going to have the dots on the end of the a. So if you see these vowels in a word, this will be consistent, and this is the strongest group, and this group cannot mix with the other group. So essentially we've got an A with dots, an O with dots, and a Y, which is more like an U sound, which kind of sounds like a U in the English language. So you can kind of think about these two groups. You've got two kinds of A's, two kinds of O's, and two kinds of U's. And these groups can never mix. They can never mix in a word. You will have compound words which put two words together, but in one basic word, these two groups can never mix. After that, you've got an I and an E. This is the weakest group, and they will always follow whichever group is present. However, if there is no group present, so if none of the two strongest groups are present, like in the word Helsinki, so if you're going to say Helsingissa, then on the end you're going to have an A with two dots, because the group with the dots on top, the A and the O and the Y, which looks like a Y, that is the strongest group. So if there's no A's, O's or U's in the word, then you always follow the strongest group, and the I and the E will always follow. So if one of the two strongest groups is present, the I and the E always follows. So we've gone through the strongest group, which is the A, the O, and what looks like a Y, but kind of is more like a type of U or an U. That's the strongest group. Then the other group is just what looks like an A, an O, and a U. That's the second strongest group. And how you can kind of remember this is to think about the word auto, which means car in Finnish. So if you see any vowels which are in the word auto, you know for sure that it will follow that pattern and there won't be dots on the end of any of the vowels. If you don't see any letters or vowels from the word auto, then it will always follow the strongest group. Okay, and this is quite simple. However, it gets more complicated when you have a compound word. So a good example is jääkaapissa. Okay, so jääkaapissa is a compound word. So you've got two words. In Finnish, they love to put words together. They don't have very often they don't have like a hyphen between words. As long as the last letter on the first word and the first letter on the second word, as long as those letters are not the same, you can just put them right together very easily. Sometimes if the last letter from the first word and the first letter from the second word are the same, you might see a hyphen there as well. But anyway, in Finnish they really like to they'll just put the words together. So that's how you end up with a word like jääkaappi. And in Finnish that means fridge. And you'll see that you've got two different groups of vowels in that one word. The reason for this is because it is actually two separate words put together. And when you're conjugating and adding stuff inside or on the end of that word, you're always going to look at the second word. So the first word is jää, and the second word is kaappi. So when you conjugate this word, you're always going to look at kaappi because it's on the end. So when you're going to say jääkaapissa, you're not going to put dots on the end of the A that you use at the end. So I'll show you here. I'll put it on the screen. Jääkaapissa. Okay, and hopefully you can see that the ya is separate, like the vowels are separate in this group, and then the kaapissa is also separate. They don't mix within the same words, and the issa part after kaappi is all together. It all fits the same group. Okay, so that's when it starts to get complicated, when you see compound words together. But yeah, like I said, this will be useful for you, especially when you start going to use negative past tense, negative imperfecti, or positive perfect tense, or negative perfect tense, because you will start having nyt endings, and when you have the nyt endings, you have to either use what looks like a Y or a U. And like I said before, the Y is part of the strong group and the U is part of the weaker group. So if you see the as and the ers in a word, then you know you're going to have nyt. But if you don't see those, maybe you see all the vowels from the word auto, you'll have nyt. Okay, so hopefully that's quite easy. The main takeaway is you have to always think about the word auto. So if you see vowels from the word auto, then you know it's going to follow that group. If you don't see, then or if it's just the I and the E, you don't see any from auto, then it will automatically go to the strongest group. So always remember auto. It's going to help you a lot. If you can just remember auto, maybe draw a car and just write A, O and U. Write that inside of a drawing of a car and just try and remember it. Once you can remember auto, you're going to be able to write in Finnish so much easier. And again, like with compound words, like I said, when you see two words put together, you always have to focus on the last word in the compound word, and then you know how to conjugate it properly. Hopefully that's helpful. If there's still anything that's unclear or you need some help, then leave a comment. If anyone's got any other really good tips to use when you're trying to conjugate and use the Finnish vowels, then please leave a comment below. If you also have any video suggestions, please leave a comment as well. But I hope it was useful, at least to some people, and I hope to see you again soon.